You are now tuned into Queen Tone, a podcast where all women, especially Black women, are invited to share their thoughts, opinions, and experiences with the world without being asked to check their tone. This is a space where we cut through the noise with truth, humor, and empathy while remaining uncensored and unapologetic. Listen as we share our journey navigating life as high-achieving, ambitious millennial Black women, attempting not to lose our shit in the current day. I'm Dayna, your fave Capricorn's favorite Capricorn, who's a Detroit-bred audio tech extraordinaire with a love for setting a vibe, a perfectly curated playlist, and everything Black.
And I'm Nina. Some people call me a visionary. Some people call me a truth teller. I just call myself an Aquarius. Either way, I'm a planner with a purpose, and together we bring the real, straight, no chaser. This is Queen Tone, and our mics are now on. What up, though? We're back.
Queen Tone.
Back like we never left. Even though I know y'all are like, where's the episodes?
I know.
They're here. We're recording them.
They're here.
We're working on it.
We're
busy. No, I'm just kidding. But we appreciate y'all.
We're always just an Instagram DM away.
Just an Instagram DM away. I'll send you a voice note. If for anybody who's out there who's like, where are the episodes? Just go ahead. I'll send you a voice note. I can ramble all day. Yes. But anyway, seriously excited for this podcast episode because this is part of a larger conversation that we're going to dive into across 3 different podcasts. And so, Dayna, do you want to talk about the bigger kind of vision here?
Yeah. So also excited as well. Today's episode is part 2 of a 3-part collaboration between Queen Tone and 2 amazing podcasts focused on urban planning. As you all know, Nina has been a leader in the urban planning community for over a decade, while I'm a leader within the music tech space. Urban planning, like tech, is a space that in this day and age, it really impacts us all. And it's very vital to be informed about what's going on. So I'm excited to serve as the non-planner in these conversations, speaking for the people and the community member who wants to be informed during this series. So this is part 2 of a 3-part series, as I mentioned, leading into a Planner with a Purpose's Detroit activation that'll be happening during the National Planning Planning
Detroit
Conference.
And support me.
Right, Detroit. For the American Planning Association in me and Nina's hometown of Detroit, Michigan. As we mentioned in episode 1, Nina has designed a curated set of experiences designed to support planners and civic leaders navigating an increasingly complex, demanding moment. Grounded in care, clarity, and collective power, this weekend creates space for honest conversation, practical tools, and connection beyond traditional professional programming. The event begins Thursday, April 23rd in Detroit, Michigan. There'll be events and planning events throughout the weekend within Detroit. We'll add more details in the notes of these episodes as well, but be sure to follow a Planner with a Purpose on socials.
But something we can say,
go
because
ahead.
The deposits are paid, is that we are having a live Queen Tone podcast, our first ever live podcast during this activation on Friday, the 24th. It's going to be at the Detroit Historical Society Auditorium. So I'm super excited. Dayna and I are coming home.
Yes.
And going to have a live conversation. And so, stay tuned for that. There's lots of events happening, but definitely if you're a listener of this podcast, you're going to want to come to that for sure.
Yes. And especially that'll be the live episode of Queen Tone, and it'll be produced by my audio consultancy, Dayna Co. So again, I feel like me and Nina are collaborating on 1,000,001 things. This is another thing that you'll be able to see in our hometown. I feel like most of our collaborations have been virtual because we have not lived in the same place.
We ain't lived in the same place since
college.
Ann Arbor.
So excited to bring this home to our people, to the people. But today, even more excited to have 2 amazing guests. Our first guest of our season. Yes. So excited to be joined today by 2 amazing leaders within the planning space who host their own podcast, 4 Degrees to the Streets, hosted by Jasmine Jones-Bynes, and the Streets Are Planning podcast, hosted by Jermaine Ruffin. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yes,
thanks for having us.
let our listeners know a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little bit about your podcast, but then also tell us, what are you listening to these days? Whether it's an audio book, music, anything, but what are you listening to these days?
Jermaine, you can start.
Jasmine, thank you. Thank you again, everybody, for having me on the Queen Toe podcast. I'm a big fan, and have been following your journey for quite some time. So it's great to be on with you. Jermaine Ruffin, I am an urban planner. I have been in the field for over 15 years now. I started off in politics. I thought that was the way to change communities. I quickly found out that that's one of the ways that you can change communities, and we definitely need more of our people in that space. But I wanted to be more hands-on with the work that I was doing, and so I found urban planning as a field, and I'm grateful to be in the space now where I work in the city of Detroit. And so all of the great things that you're seeing in the neighborhoods, I've had an opportunity to play a small role in making sure that Detroiters have a voice at the table, and that they're not only just having a voice, but they have resources and tools to make sure that they're improving the neighborhoods in the way that they see fit through the work that I do with the Strategic Neighborhood Fund in partnership with the city of Detroit. So it's great to be on and great to be with you. The songs, what I'm listening to right now, it's all about Larry June right now. Like, I just got to keep it real. My favorite song right now is Everything Allocated. So I've been listening to Spiral Staircases just about every day. As soon as I wake up, go to Apple Music, throw on that Larry June mix, and just keep it pushing.
All right now.
Hey.
You know what it is. Drinking my fresh squeezed orange juice in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, got my green juice going. I'm ready. You gotta be on top of it.
Absolutely. No, I love Uncle Larry. They say he rap like he leaving you a voicemail. So I always
All facts. All facts.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. He's calming on my nervous system. I love it.
Mm-hmm. No. But no, I'm so grateful to be on the Queen Tone podcast. My name is Jasmine Jones-Bynes. I'm the host of the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. I'm a planner and commercial real estate professional. So I've actually my educational background is 100% urban planning, a undergraduate degree and a master's degree in planning. But I've spent the last 6 years actually working in commercial real estate finance. So financing, doing the debt placement, mortgage underwriting for financing and doing the debt placement and mortgage underwriting for multifamily, naturally occurring and affordable and restricted affordable housing all across the country. Really, I've done it in every single state so far. So really excited to be doing this. My podcast is really designed for people like yourself, Dayna, who are not planners, who just live and experience cities and have questions about how things work. So I'm super excited to have this conversation for sure, because it's something I get into on my show all the time about media literacy.
I love it. Welcome, guys.
Oh, and what am I listening to?
Oh, yeah, Jasmine.
Right, what am I listening to?
We got it.
Okay, so I've been listening to a lot of gospel. I don't know if you know, everyone has their different religions. I won't get, but I'm listening to a lot of gospel because I've been going through a lot of stuff. Okay. And I need to turn it inward to keep me going throughout the day. So my morning commute is gospel. And I would say, besides that, I've been really big on my Jersey Club. I guess I miss home, but been watching a lot of Jersey Club videos. And one of my favorite Jersey Club DJs, DJ J Hood, he had been dormant for a really long time, since probably like 2014, and he just did a On the Radar, the On the Radar things on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
he just did one of those. Yeah. I had a whole party in my house. It was lit. So that's what I've been into. The highs and the lows, the gospel in the Jersey Club for sure over here.
Okay.
DJ J Hood.
I love it. Nina, what's been in your ears?
My ears, my gospel as well. Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. That's usually what
standard stripper fight music.
Yeah, I'm either vibey R&B, which everybody knows. I'm vibey R&B, or I'm stripper fight music. I have no in between, and I don't listen to men. And I'm very proud of that. So I think the last album. Oh, you know what? Kendrick did get me with this last album. So but that was the last.
If there is a man to listen to, I would say.
Right.
It was Kendrick. But yeah, I've been really. Oh, sorry. What you gonna say, Jay?
No, I was just gonna say I ride around bopping the Cardi B. Like she she got the flow, she got the whole thing.
And I'm actually in the city right now because I'm seeing her on tomorrow. Y'all are listening to this in the future, but I'm going to see Cardi B tomorrow, so I'm very excited. Very very excited to get these lyrics off. Yeah, she had Little Caesars Arena.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sold out.
To get that off. Oh. Yes, sold out. Yes. And then the new Jill Scott, because I got Jill Scott tickets for Chicago.
Her tiny desk was so good.
Yeah.
Jilly from Philly. That's my heart right there.
That's what I've been listening to.
Yeah, I would say including because Jill's Gen X. I've been very much so in my Gen X bag. I feel like the last week between Jill Scott's new album, Juvenile, Big Booty Bitch with Megan Thee Stallion. In the gym, that's already gone double platinum. And then T.I.'s new song, because in the gym.
I haven't listened to.
That new T.I. is fire.
Yeah. As my mama would say, I love the beat. I know the beat.
I know the beat.
I love the beat.
Have y'all seen
I feel like it's
do,
good.
Have y'all seen T.I. do stand-up? Like his comedy? Did y'all know that T.I. does comedy? Okay, so let me tell you this. This is, now we really chit-chatting. So I went to I forget the comedian name. Maybe it was, I'm not even gonna say it, but I forget the comedian's name, but I went to his show and his opener, T.I. came out. So I'm like, oh, we about to have a little rap concert before the comedy show. That's lit.
Yeah.
He started telling jokes. Like,
wow.
And they were not, no, he's a much better rapper. He's a much better rapper. Yeah, and
come on.
Apparently he's like bad. People have seen him other cities and they're like, yeah, he should stick to rapping. So I'm glad he got new music on the way.
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, he could have a hobby.
I did just take up stand-up. Like, I think I may have mentioned this. I mean, my listeners definitely know, but I took a 6-week comedy class and I actually had a graduation, did a 5-minute set in February. So, like, I had to, do comedy.
Nice.
So it is something, I
DMT out that link.
Do it. Yeah, I was about to say, he needs to take a class at the Lincoln Lodge. Because it takes a lot of work. It's harder than probably most people think to.
I think it's hard.
Like make a joke that makes sense for an audience that you don't know. Like it's not like you're inviting every single person and you kind of know who your audience is. So it takes a lot of effort. So kudos to him for trying. But
absolutely.
I heard him on the Grits and Eggs podcast. With Deontay Kyle and their back and forth was funny. So my thought would be like, oh, T.I. is funny.
I was surprised that I wasn't cracking up.
I know, but I was about to say that's very different. And it's also, they're both from Atlanta. So it's like, your target audience. So it's the conversation is, I'm funny next to my friend compared to a bunch of strangers.
Right. You're funny next to your friend, but are you funny on a stage full of in front of strangers? That's how you know you're funny.
Yeah.
Big difference. And then to go from trap music to comedy, that's a heavy shift right there.
It was a heavy shift.
Come on.
All right.
Well, shout out to him for trying something new.
Fact.
Shout out to you.
Thank you for that fun fact. Dayna, did you say what you? Did you say? Oh yeah, you were. That's why we got there.
Oh yep, I'm
saying in T.I.
Gen X. Yeah. T.I., Juvenile, and Jill Scott, and I'm going to see Jill Scott as well. I had to get my tickets and my mom's tickets, so I'm excited.
You got it in New York, or you got it? Well, we'll talk.
Yeah, she coming to Detroit. I'm in the house.
I do.
Oh, you
stops.
Come to Detroit.
So I have tickets for Detroit and other places. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But cool. I'm curious before we dive into our topic and as a segue into it, if you all have seen this video that's going around with some of our faves who have gone to glory. So I'll put it up on the screen right now for a deep fake.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something.
I didn't wake up this morning thinking I needed to see something like that. And I think I agree with my earlier consciousness of not needing anything like that.
Yeah. It's alarming how good it is, because it's not obvious that it's I saw on Instagram a picture of Prince sitting in the audience and I was like, oh, this looks like an award show that Prince was at some point in his life. And then I saw the video and I'm like, oh, that got me. The picture, I didn't realize until Nipsey was next to Bob Marley.
Sometimes the pictures are better than the videos.
Yeah.
But they'll get better. They'll get better.
They'll get better. That seeing Nipsey, you know, pass the blunt over to Bob Marley, yo, that was wild. I was like, hold up, like, cause I got to keep it real. It did catch me in the beginning. I saw like MJ, I saw Selena, and I was like, Selena? Nah,
black people love Selena, so she
loves Selena.
Anything for Selena. Without a doubt.
Puerto Rican.
Like a Puerto Rican. No, the thing about it is this, right? I think when it's something like that, where you want to commemorate someone or highlight someone or just see they're moving again, I think that's, I think it's weird, but I don't think that's the same. There's been a lot of other things with this AI that's been more harmful. People who are still living and using them and having them do something strange. Like I've seen a video of someone, it was an AI video, and it's like a black grandmother, and she was like arguing face to face with a raccoon. No, it was like arguing face to face with a raccoon. And it's like, that's AI. But like, why create something like that? Or I've seen the makeup videos, the black girl makeup videos, but it's an AI black girl. It's like, you could have got a regular black girl to do that. So now it's like you got a human. And who's profiting? Instead of you paying someone, you're using the cartoon version of it. But it's interesting that the cartoon versions are black people.
Yeah, that's even now within the tech space too and for definition. So there's AI, which is kind of what we're in the midst of now.
Yeah, please teach us, Dayna.
There's generative AI, which is you're literally generating a new image off of something. So if I say, make a picture of, create a picture of all four of us on a beach as if we were there in the 1980s, and then it'll generate that picture, that's then generative AI. But what we're talking about is deep fake, where you essentially put someone's actual face or their actual voice on top of either a real body in a video, or you generate all of it, like this award show of all of our deceased faves, or of the video of there's a video of this black woman who's like giving this recipe, and she sounds like someone's grandma. Well, honey, next you're gonna pour a little bit of sugar in here, then you're gonna do whatever. And that's not a real person. And the person who's making money off of it is not, they're likely a white man. And it's almost like modern day blackface. Yes.
Digital blackface. Yeah.
Yes, digital blackface. Now you can get things where it can sound like someone's voice, and you can have them call someone and it will sound like, even my family and I'm like, what's the password? What is something that if someone calls you and
it's you.
Pineapples.
What is it? Tell me something that has never been written down in your phone, has no whatever, to be able to know that. And thinking about like even us millennials born well into kind of the technology age, like how is this impacting us? In episode 1 of this series, we were talking about intergenerational, like how is this impacting our grandparents, our parents, the generation below, that's coming after us, and really being able to dive into that. So I'm excited to get into this conversation of media literacy, all of that, in the span of tech coming from my end, but then also like how we can utilize these things within the urban planning space, or also kind of how these things can be used positively and negatively within the planning space.
I mean, they using one. I just want to say, y'all using AI for everything, but canceling my student loans.
Hey,
if y'all
speak on it.
Do something.
Come on now.
With hacking, creating fake shit, go ahead and say that I paid them things off.
Focus on
get the loans out of here.
Add a few zeros. Add a few zeros to my bank account. However you want.
See,
deep fake.
Go ahead. More traceable. I feel like that's more traceable. I don't even need extra money. Just go ahead and take that loan off, and I'm good.
It can be done. It can be done. Let me tell you, it can be done.
Take that mortgage payment off too while they at it.
Look, okay, you're trying to make generational wealth. There's all sorts of things that we could be doing, right?
Blessings, AI.
And the thing about this particular video, I feel like this particular video, after a while, obviously you can tell it's fake, because if you have any consciousness of when these people were alive or dead, because I saw Whitney Houston next to what's the white lady name? Marilyn Monroe. Sorry. You know, like obviously that's not real, right? When you look at the entire video. But I was talking to a family member actually this week, and we were talking about the Epstein files. Now I did not bring this up, but it got brought up, right? And you know, there are some deep fake photos of the mayor of New York's Madani's like with Epstein or whatever. This person brought this up as a fact of like, oh, I saw this thing. And I was like, oh, those are deep fake photos that have now been debunked, right? But again, this is an earnest conversation with a person who is earnestly digesting information from the world, right? And then coming back and saying, I'm making a determination on somebody's validity or their ability to lead in office based on inaccurate and deep fake photos, right? So it could go as from silly as, you know, Martin Luther King video with wings behind us, you know, flying up the sky for Martin Luther King, you know, for MLK party.
Dunking on Kobe.
Dunking on Kobe, right?
It's crazy.
To being
Martin had hops.
To like being very, very harmful and very, very real and grounded in the real world with real people and real consequences, right?
We are living in the most information-rich era in human history, but also one of the most confusing. News, commentary, images, and video move across social platforms in seconds, often reaching millions before anyone verifies whether they are true. The rise of generative AI, deepfakes, algorithmic feeds, and viral misinformation has made it increasingly difficult for everyday people to distinguish credible information from manipulation. Media literacy, once understood as the ability to critically evaluate news and advertising, has now expanded into a much broader skill set. It includes understanding how algorithms shape what we see, recognizing manipulated images or AI-generated content, identifying biased sources, and knowing how information spreads online. The stakes are particularly high for marginalized communities. Historically, misinformation and propaganda have often targeted communities of color, immigrants, and low-income population in ways that influence elections, public health decisions, and public policy debates. In the digital era, those tactics have become faster, more scalable, and harder to detect. Older generations face unique challenges. Many people who did not grow up in the digital ecosystem may approach online information with the same trust they once placed in traditional media institutions. Meanwhile, younger generations are navigating an information landscape that is hyper-personalized by algorithms, where the content they see is often curated to reinforce existing beliefs. The result is a fractured information environment where people may be living in entirely different realities depending on what platforms they use, who they follow, and what the algorithm decides to show them. Media literacy today is no longer just an academic concept. It is becoming a core civic skill. It determines how communities interpret news about housing, public policy, infrastructure, elections, and public health. In fields like urban planning, where public engagement and trust are critical, misinformation can shape how communities perceive development projects, zoning changes, or environmental risk. Learning how to question, verify, and contextualize information is now essential, not only for individuals, but for communities trying to make informed decisions about their future.
Okay. So one thing I want to offer, in addition to kind of talking about deepfakes and the state of where we are right now, and thank you, Dayna, for that great overview, is that the statistic that I found from Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism found that roughly 50 million Americans have limited or no access to local news right now. And as we know, in the last few months, especially since the second Trump administration have come in, they have intentionally crushed local and nonprofit newsrooms, PBS, NPR, like local newsrooms across the country where people are getting their news. So this made a lot of sense to me. Also, when they surveyed people living in those news deserts, what they found is that those people didn't feel uninformed. They actually think they know what's going on, but they don't realize that they have a very small understanding of what's going on because they're not actually getting the vast amount of information that is happening across the country. So there could be, again, protests happening in every major city, but if your newsroom is super local, or you don't have a newsroom, or you're only locked into one type of station that's available in your area, you may not, if they choose not to show that, you have no concept of what's going on in the other places in the country. And as an urban planner, as a community member, that scares me. And I say community in a broader sense of like, not even just in Detroit, but just across, when there's such important emphasis on like the information we use to make decisions so that we can have a better future. And the fact that that's being limited is concerning. So that leads me to ask myself, and I want to understand from y'all, how do you rate your own media literacy? You know, from doomsday scrolling, like some of us do on TikTok, I know I'm guilty, to staying updated in politics with like hard news sources that you trust. Like, what are some of the publications that you follow? How do you actually find information for yourselves?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
It's a good question because I try not to watch the news intentionally. Like the actual news, like CNN, Fox, BBC, like ABC, it's all really sad and really emotion drawing. Like I feel like the way that it's designed is it's same thing with Instagram. It's like the worst thing ever, so you can stick to it. So I might be kind of bad at my media literacy. I think I'm pretty good at identifying like, oh, that's not a real thing, or that's a fake video, or that's not real news. But I would say my knowledge, truthfully, of like what all is going on in the world comes from what I see on social media. I follow a lot of like the American Planning Association, all of their different pages. I follow a lot of nonprofits pages who tend to like put up information that's happening. And of course I see the things that are happening, whether it's different raids or stuff like that happening nationally. But that's probably my downfall, is I'll try to stay out of the day-to-day or week-to-week news operations. But I will, like, we had the State of the Union with our president a few weeks ago. Like I watched that. I saw that it was happening and I sat down to watch it. And that's probably where I feel like I have more points than someone else. Except like a lot of people will watch the news, but like they won't watch C-SPAN and sit and watch the full presentation or the full congressional hearing. That I will do. Like I'll sit down with a glass of wine, and that's what I did. Not watch the State of the Union, like as something to enjoy.
Yeah. What about you, Jermaine?
Yeah, I think that I grew up in a different era, where it was like my grandmother, I grew up with my grandmother as well, and would sit and kind of watch like Dan Rather and like the old, like all of these older,
Walter Cronkite.
All of that kind of stuff. And, 60 Minutes and those types of shows that, where news and journalism was well researched, right? Like they would put their perspectives. They would put their perspectives on it, but you knew it was an opinion show, right? Like you knew this is an opinion show. This is a show that's going to give you the facts and the behind the scenes. And always, I agree with Jasmine with the C-SPAN, comment is that I watched hearings, right? Like, and to watch the hearings and get the information firsthand. And then also the lectures. Like that was one of the things that, with C-SPAN and PBS and other sources that they would have like lecturers who would come on, who were folks with PhDs who would share all this information. And now, with getting the information through social media, you can have somebody who's who can speak really well and tell you like, oh, this is the information and this is that. And you find out like this person has, doesn't have a degree in this particular field, is not well researched, or they're regurgitating information that they heard from somebody else, and it's not sourced well or anything like that. So I've gotten better over time on the social media side of like figuring out which sites, who I should be following and all of that. But on the news side, like I've been very, very disappointed recently with like, those old institutions like CBS and ABC News and all of those folks, and bending the knee to this administration with the types of information that they provide. And so it's gotten increasingly harder. And I think for the older generation above us, it's like it's extremely hard because they don't navigate social media at all, and they're getting untrustworthy news from Fox and some of these other sources that again are opinion shows and not really well sourced in the information that they're providing. So it's gotten more difficult, but I think that I found a way to navigate it for me.
Yeah. I feel like for me, even though I work in tech, I have a very hate relationship with social media. So even I delete Instagram and TikTok on and off my phone every 5 business days because I don't know how to ration my consumption of it. So it's either all or nothing. So like I was home in Detroit for Christmas, I put TikTok on my phone. When I landed in Brooklyn, I took TikTok off my phone because it was like I'm consuming too much, or even how we mentioned like doom scrolling. But as far as information, I don't listen to the news, particularly listen. Like I can't hear the current president words come out of his mouth, so I have to read the news. So even like the State of the Union, I read the summary of what was going on because my emotions are not attached to when I read the information, but it is attached to like my heart rate will go up if I listen to the news and what's going on.
It wasn't an easy listen, that's for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So a lot of it is reading. Either like Detroit, I read the Detroit's newspapers, like online things. But even with publications or like who I follow, is usually if I agree with their opinions, or if I try and look and see if they're attached to a company compared to like independent journalism. So even like Don Lemon, now that he's independent, I love him now that now that he's independent, kind of being able to give not only unbiased but also like raw and not tied to who he's working for right now. Similar things like that, or people who, based on the knowledge that they have, like their commentary, their knowledge backs it up of what they're saying. I'm susceptible to get got and think something is like, oh, I looked at this post and I found out that it wasn't real, or it was rage baiting, or it was coupled with like headlines or things like that. Like this headline is a run-on sentence. I'm not going to necessarily trust that just off of the fact that it's a run-on sentence.
Block text on Instagram is killing.
Yes.
It's killing
Yes.
media literacy for sure. Because you can put anything in block letters on Instagram and do that. And that's kind of like, for me, I started to clean up my Instagram a lot, as like unfollowing the Shade Room and like
the Shade
blogs
Room
that I know. I mean, I do like pop culture, so
spiritual world.
So like I can understand pop culture, and I do think pop culture is an important part of how culture and policy is created, but also being very specific about where I get that news. And then like looking at Substack again, like you said, kind of going to independent journalism, and then still supporting, NPR and their affiliate stations all over. And I'm sure for all of us, part of our media literacy is almost a requirement of like the jobs that we do, because there's no way that I could survive in Chicago without reading, the Chicago Times or the Chicago Tribune. Because I work on policy on a local and state level, like I have to be plugged in. I'm usually getting that through podcasts. I will say, like, trusted, again, like NPR affiliates or like local journalism in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, this intersection of planning and information is so important, because so much of our jobs as planners is to disseminate information about projects. And a lot of us get to decide what that looks like. And we also are supposed to engage, and I'm using quotation marks, engage the community in the plans that are happening. But again, we get to choose how much we say or do in order to actually engage people. And one person that I actually found while I was doing some research is a professor who's a planner and also studies communications. Her name is Dr. Nina Kelly. So actually I met with her and she pronounces her name Nina, but I was like, oh, another Nina. So we spell our names the same, but pronounce them differently. But she's a planner turns researcher. So she was a practicing planner for over 15 years, actually right here in Michigan. She's AICP certified, and she speaks our language. She went back to Wayne State to get her PhD at the intersection of communications and urban sustainability. And now she's doing her postdoc at Temple. And so I was able to have a conversation with her and kind of get some more information. I read a few of her papers, and so I'm going to bring elements of that in as we talk about this topic, because her research fascinates me vastly, and I'm like, oh my god, we need more people in the industry, in the urban planning industry, who think about this topic. So her research sits at the intersection of what we're talking about today: how information moves through communities, how communities access it, and what happens when people get information or they don't get information. Because again, and I asked Dayna this during part one, how does getting information change your habits, right? How does having information change how you engage with the built environment or local politics? So one of the things that she studies is this program called the Documenters Network. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's a news organization in Chicago. They were founded in Chicago, but they're national, called City Bureau. And they're located in Chicago. And so what they do is that they pay everyday community members to attend public meetings, which is probably the most boring thing most people probably think of. But through that, they take notes, they take information that's available online, and they put it all in one searchable place, so that again, community members are not only going to gather information, but they're putting it back so that other people can use it. And because the reality is the local newspaper doesn't tell you everything that happens at a public meeting. They tell you what they want you to know about what happens at that local meeting. And so sometimes we all know, when you go look online to see what happened at a planning meeting or a city council meeting, you can go look at the minutes, but the minutes are the barest of the bones information. And so again, depending on if somebody covered it, right, and depending on what information they chose to share, and then you have the minutes, which is also a very sanitized version of how that meeting would have went. This particular project puts a lot more context to what happens at those public meetings. And so through Dr. Kelly's research, she compared the official minutes with the notes taken by these documenters. And she found, and this was in Grand Rapids, she looked at 46 meetings that had happened in Grand Rapids, and she found that there was a significant difference in what the documenters wrote down as what happened at that meeting and then what was found in the minutes. And again, that's just one way of saying, okay, how is information being not only presented, but is the entire context? Let's say people are upset about affordable housing, or upset about a particular development. Is that entire context of what happened in that meeting, what people said during that meeting, actually being translated and then disseminated amongst community members? Which
it's like the game of telephone that we
right, it's a game of telephone
on the playground of like, it's never. By the time you get to that circle, it is never the original message. Wow, that's crazy. So, a question for you all, within the planning space, how do you use media or use tech kind of in your everyday life as planners? Is it prominent, or is it depending on your own style of work? Is it essential? Kind of what would you all say?
For me, in my day-to-day work, I don't necessarily use too much media. I'll use some of the news, right? If I'm underwriting a deal, obviously I do a quick search of that neighborhood, that address, to see, like, has there been any activity? Is there anything currently that the city council is looking for? Right? I'm doing mortgage underwriting. Has there been any crime, any floods, any fires related to this particular piece of land? But then for my podcast, that's everything that it is, right? When things happen, I look at it and I'm like, should I respond to this? Should I not respond to this? Do I want to talk about this on my podcast? So media for what I do in my podcast is very, very relevant. It's like, how are people? And then I see the discourse, right? I let things happen and I'll see how people are responding to it in the comments, or what the conversations are happening around the internet. And that gives me an opportunity to decide on what perspective I want to share on my show.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's definitely media has been of more use, uh, especially in engaging neighborhoods and engaging community. Because one of the things that I found to be very valuable is storytelling, right? Like, and so a lot of times coming into community, the way that we had interacted before is like, yes, we would come in and say, this is what you need, because I'm an urban planning professional. I think I've read the research, I've read this book, I've done these, I've looked at the U.S. Census tracts and all this information, and this is what you need. But what I found since before the pandemic, and what's something that I've used more than anything, is like to go in and listen first. So if you're going in, what we like to do is kind of just do interviews with people to better understand what's happening at the ground level. And then the secondary piece is, social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's threads now, or whether folks are using Facebook still, which is more kind of the older generation, so to speak. Is I like to go into those spaces and have a footprint as well, and to really follow people who I view as community leaders or folks who I know may be very vocal in sharing their opinion and utilize social media as kind of on the ground neighborhood reporters, so to speak, right? And so, finding information from those folks about like the day to day, some of the things that I might not have insights in, or like, they're venting about something or whatever the case may be. I absorb that and bring that to face-to-face conversations or through some of my email conversations and be like, hey, listen, what's going on? Is there something that I can assist you with? And those types of things. It takes a lot of time to be able to kind of do that. But I think being able to kind of filter between that traditional media, the social media, and then blending that with some of the capturing of storytelling from a local level gives you a better view than just kind of using one by itself.
What about you, Nina?
No, yeah, I think everybody kind of hit it at different variations of like how I engage with media. I think because I have always been like in government up until recently, and even now in a nonprofit, I'm always looking to see how the development projects that I'm working on or that my department is working on is being portrayed in the media, because that gives me a lens into what information, how people are receiving the information about a particular project. Because I know as planners, we say we're supposed to be neutral, but we are not neutral people. We obviously have ethical principles and all that different stuff, but also we are people and we have, do you support this? I might be working on a project that I wouldn't personally support, but by law, I need to come and present the facts to the people, the decision makers who get to vote on it, and then go from there. Also, when we're doing public meetings or or disseminating public information, there are times where I'm putting out information to engage people to want to come to give their opinion about a particular project, issue, legislation, or I'm seeing what other people are doing, kind of like Jermaine said, like, oh, is there going to be a community meeting about this in Greater Grand Crossing? And I'm in Chicago, so it's a huge city, and there's 50 wards in Chicago, 77 neighborhoods. There's no way that I would be able to keep my ear on the ground in all of those neighborhoods, right? And so I have to be plugged into the block club articles. I have to be plugged into, the different newsletters that are circulated just in a 4-block radius. If somebody created a newsletter, like it really just depends. And honestly, I mean, this is part of the job of a planner. We are in the information business. Like I said before, comprehensive plans, everyday public meetings, everyday public engagement processes. This is us playing a role that I don't think our careers or the structure of school or our careers have prepared us for. Like everybody on this call is a good communicator, but how many people do we know in this industry that have very, very important jobs who control millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and millions of people's lives, are not good communicators and are not interested in actually making sure that information is accessible. Right.
Are these people ethical?
All right. Right. Ethical doesn't make it accessible. And then you get to present what you want to present, right? When you make the rules. And so like that is a skewed perspective as well, even from the planning institution. And so being able to not only ingest information, but having the ability to say, this smells a little funky, or okay, let me research one more thing, or go get one more article to give me the full context of this is really important. And as we're producing information, as we're distributing it, we're asking people to make decisions based on it. Literally, we are giving people information to make a decision to go advocate either to their to the elected official directly to vote for something or not to vote for something. So I take our part of information dissemination very seriously in a way that I'm not sure that everybody does. And I think this conversation, again, both in our jobs, but then even in our families, of like, what information are we giving people so that we can move the needle towards the futures that we all care about, which are inclusive of people, inclusive of different incomes, housing is a human right type shit. That's important to be giving people information in bite-sized doses that they can understand and then go act on.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear, kind of from a tech perspective, and how even now moving into music and within podcasts, I pull up media the way that someone pulls up the front page, because a lot of the things that we're doing within how are our podcasts performing, like if we're doing deals, what's currently happening in the media, if we're pitching new podcast shows, or what topics or when to air a show, it's largely based on what's going on in the world. So even consuming that media news, what's hot, what's not, it's like, and while also being the vehicle, the tech, whether it's your phone, your computer, or whatever, being the vehicle to people's access to media, is, I would say, I'm kind of consuming myself in a way within work. And then Jasmine, even how you mentioned like with preparing for podcasts, it's all the consumption of news and media are one and the same. Whereas before, music in the 70s, news in the 70s, technology, that was all IBM and a supercomputer in the 70s was very different than Walter Cronkite being on news, which was very different than ads in a magazine. Like you kind of could bifurcate that in your mind, which is now it's all in your phone, like all very intertwined.
Well, you said you read a lot of the media. I'm assuming you read it on your phone. Like you're not getting the newspaper mailed to your house.
Oh.
So how do you feel about the payment of things? Are you a paid subscriber to all of them? Because a lot of them are behind, like the real news is behind.
Yeah. So I actually didn't realize how much I'm missing out on behind paywalls until my job started paying for me to have access to it because of the work that I was doing. And now I'm like, oh, this is the quality, not, quality information, or even behind some of the more pertinent interviews that may have the person that you want to hear. It's all behind a paywall. Yeah. And there are, if I can find it, I'll put it in our liner notes. There are websites that you can put in links into it to get behind the paywall.
Okay.
Or sometimes some publications you can gift that. But that is now that I've seen what's behind the wall, it is an issue, because that's that's the free shit that's all on the internet is not what I would want my grandmother to be reading, my little cousins to be reading, even my grandmother has called me, "You okay? It's a war in New York." No, it's not. That she was talking about the mayoral election, and I'm like, "Grandma, let me FaceTime you to see what's actually going on." And she's like, "Oh, all over the news." And I'm like, what are you watching? Well, I'm on YouTube.
That'll get you.
We got to change those.
That'll get you every time.
Yeah, because it's like and for her, she's like, I can see it, so it's real. So this is what's happening. It's like it's not.
I don't want to keep us off the topic too far, but that's part of the reason why on my podcast, we always use our sources, like as we're speaking and in our show notes. One, because it's what we talked about in the first part of this series of the need for Black people to over justify their information, but also for that purpose, it's like, I'm doing my research and helping translate the information to you so that everyone is informed on where the source information is, and I'm not trying to just share BS information that's not actually helpful. So going back to the sources is always really important. So when I'm watching YouTube videos, if someone hasn't referenced a source or a scholarly article, I'm like, what they talking about? They don't like what's going on. I need to hear the facts that you've done your research and you're not just a man with a microphone.
Absolutely. And if you're in a position of like even giving opinions in the media space right now, is say that. It's like, listen, I think, I believe, these are my thoughts. And so just trying to be very clear, especially as planners, I look at us as facilitators of information and even sometimes translators of information, right? And so being able to take some of these complex ideas, squeeze them down into the means of being able to just translate it for folks in our neighborhoods and the people that we're serving is extremely important. So I think being upfront with what your opinions are and utilizing those sources as Jasmine just spoke about, I think is the way to move this conversation forward and to make sure that our platforms and the platforms that we support are always having that truthful information or giving folks the means to go and look it up themselves.
No, that's so true. And honestly, Jasmine, you didn't take us off topic anyway, because y'all really answered this question of what do we do, right? What do we do? You know, we give people access to the information, giving them direct links to things and saying like, here is the primary source, because what we're doing and what Dr. Kelly really talks about of like her evaluation of the documenters through City Bureau is not only equipping people with information, but also telling them how to evaluate information, right? So we were like, putting information in front of people, but we also need the infrastructure to make sure that they can come to other people, including us, to say, hey, I came across this article and I don't understand this word, or I came across this, you know, this my city council is voting on this thing, but I don't know enough information about it. Can you point me in the right direction? And since, you know, our social infrastructure is being, you know, whittled down day by day, think about, you know, like public libraries closing down. That is the main staple. You know, how many, raise your hand if you know the Dewey Decimal System. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, kids don't get that as much anymore, right? So like being able to
my bookcase is loosely based off the
not loosely based. Okay.
I'm 100% a book nerd and was in the library like this is out of place. So
yeah, my first work study job was in the library.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and they had air conditioning. Everybody didn't have air conditioning on the summertime.
Mine didn't have no air conditioning.
That's where you were. That's well, yeah. But either way, right? It's like somewhere to go. And I remember like being in the library was like a thing. It was a thing that we did. And I'm not sure that I don't have kids. I don't got no kids. I don't have kids. I gotta go. But I don't know if that is still the case. If people are like taking like the ritual of going to a public facility to get information or to ask questions, right? And so if that infrastructure is gone, then it's places like City Bureau that are building that back in. But what is the scale of that, right? And really saying that, you know, instead of information being a side quest, it should be community center information should be the default, right? Of where people can get actual context, because realistically, especially for communities that look like us and the communities that we're likely fighting for, often don't have the bandwidth to go sit and watch a meeting. They have 2 jobs or they have kids that they're dropping off, right? And so how can we make that easier for people? So I think y'all really hit on a lot of points of like how planners show up in this and how we can make sure that the people around us are not only getting information, but knowing how to interpret that information accurately, whether we agree with it or not, right? It's not about agreeing with it. It's about, is this an accurate depiction of the information that you're ingesting? And then you make a decision with that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want to take us to thinking about, how does messaging change for youth? How does messaging change for elders? We kind of talked about this a little bit, but what are some of the things that we could collectively be doing as both urban planners or professionals, but then also as people, to make sure that that cross-generation activity that we talked about in the previous episode, that the information, you know, is also there and being interpreted in ways that all groups can understand?
Yeah, I would say, and we kind of touched on this in the first part about asking the why when talking to youth in general, and even as the non-planner, of like, lead with why I should know this, or like, why is this important to me? Even I feel like coming into urban planning is, how is this going to affect my grandma who's still in the city of Detroit, who's on, you know, like, how is that going to impact? Because even then that will initially expand our mind. But I think with youth, it's giving them the context of almost like school, having to understand why this is important. Whereas we may assume millennials, Gen X, whatever, may have some context because they're moving throughout life where they may have to run into these institutions or situations or whatever. But youth almost introducing it to them. Even when you said like the Dewey Decimal System, oh, that's a library card. I remember going to get my library card. I remember why it was important. If I wanted multiple books, I didn't have to pay for, like, even small things like that was the incentive of, I don't have to pay for this. I can return it. I can do this. Like, all of that adds up. So I would say start with the why for youth. And maybe that's even a part for the elders too, because the why may have changed, and, you know, the whys may change within their life cycle. It's not cycle. Yeah. Lifetime. Cycle, lifetime.
Yeah, I'd add, I think to the why question, I think that's right on. I think the question that I've started to ask, especially when it comes to engaging community, is the how. How do you like to be communicated with, right? And so, there was a time when, when I worked in politics, it was like, you go and knock on somebody's door and talk to them and, stand on their porch and have those conversations. And there's a segment of the population who loves that type of interaction. And then there are those folks who like, look, we remember the pandemic. It's like, look, bro, don't come knocking at my door and just showing up and like trying to talk to me. I don't know who you are or what you bring into my house.
Yeah.
Go do your thing. And and the reality is in certain neighborhoods, sometimes knocking on the door and how you knock on the door can create trauma or, or a reaction from folks that you don't want. So one of the questions of how is like, all right, so maybe it's we don't knock on your door, we put a door hanger on, right? Or maybe we put something in the mailbox, or or maybe social media is the best way to communicate with you, because that's how you access all your information. And then with elders in particular, it's gotten increasingly difficult because of the pandemic space and folks coming to their homes and whatnot. So they still use landlines. There's a lot of folks who still use landlines, right? Like, and so you have to try to have all the means of communication and identify how folks like to be communicated with, and try to use that as a lever to push the messaging that you need to, and to engage people at a level that they appreciate.
I find that the younger generation is the hardest to connect with and communicate with, at least from my perspective. Even when I look at like my podcast numbers, my engagement is like the least in the 18 to 24 category. And I think I'm still figuring out how best to communicate with that group. Like, do I need to dance it out? Do I need to, what I gotta do? Like, take you through there, what I gotta do? Because I can't, that's the one area where I feel like they have so much, right? Like there's so much that they're exposed to daily, hourly, minute by minute, that it's just competition. And I find that that's the hardest group to connect with, but I don't stop trying, obviously. But I've gone back to a lot more phone calls. I've gone back to like, we all have our notes for this episode. I printed mine out. Like I've gone back to a lot more physical forms of media or communication. Like I asked you about the paper ones because I did. Like I went into the CVS and I picked up like the LA Times, like the physical version of it. Because I fear that we've always talked about technology being like this great system for us to use, and it's going to help. It was supposed to, Nina, make community meetings easier, so you didn't have to go to the community meeting. You could live stream it. We're not getting that same thing. Like it was supposed to help open up access to all these different things that had been gatekept or behind the walls, and now I feel like it's having the opposite effect.
Yeah. I will say too, from a tech perspective, because Jasmine, you brought up something important of like technology is supposed to be a tool, but often in this capitalistic society, the tool then becomes, oh, well, this can just reduce cost. And so then it's now supplementing something that was a human or a human brain,
or completely eliminating it,
or completely eliminate it, because based on the bottom line of how much money we either make or need, it's deemed that we don't need this. Whereas the human element of it all is like, it's still, this was just supposed to be a tool. This was just supposed to write the minutes down so a hand doesn't have to write it, not eliminate access to a meeting or do whatever it could do because, we don't need this anymore. Now we'll just have AI generated or whatever it may be. So even note it, like just key of saying it is supposed to be a tool. Oftentimes there are factors outside of us as individuals who then turn that tool into a replacement or an eraser or things like that. So even being cognizant of like the technology that we choose to use or how we choose to use it is it's a tool. That's all. Like you still need the same way a hammer, a pen. This is useless if my hand is not around it using it. And to keep hold of tech like that, as opposed to, this is sentient and now I can use this pen and I don't even need to think about anything like that. And it's like, whoa, calm down. Like let's remember that we're humans and we can do things.
Yes. I mean, and Dayna, you make a great point. I always say, I usually start a lot of my lectures or public speaking engagements with like, planning has been used as a tool of white supremacy. We can also use planning as a way to connect communities to make sure that resources are equitable.
100%.
Like, again, how we come into this industry. This industry is just a tool and a mechanism to get towards a goal. And some of our, I mean, and we know this historically, some of our goals has been to extract and dissect and dilute our communities. And for those of us, people of color, who are now coming up through planning and using this tool, we are seeing different progress, which is why we have the Trump administration, a second Trump administration, in my opinion, because we were actually using these tools to get to where we needed to go, right? And now this is a dissector of that. I want to bring in a little bit of research based on this conversation. So Pew Research actually found that adults under 30 now trust the National News Organization and social media almost the same rate. So about 50 to 51%, right? So obviously a lot of, especially millennials and Gen Zers, we grew up in this intersection of like having, going to the library and doing Dewey's Decimal System, but then now we have
citing your sources,
citing your sources, having
or still knowing you can cite your sources and having that mind is like Gen Z doesn't have that. Or even when I read Wikipedia now, it's like, oh, I have
never use it as a source.
Yeah, I'll use it. I'll use it as like, oh, I think Beyonce is a Virgo, but I won't use it as like this is canon. So even I feel like we have minds to gauge things like that.
Gauge things, and it's different from older adults, which it found that elders, they actually approach seeing the news as the same rigor as they gave like the evening news. So like when they see something online, they're like, oh, this must have come from something reputable, because their trust with local news predates some of the new intentions of using media and social media to spread misinformation on purpose. Like it's just a little bit different. It's not that it didn't happen, because it did. Propaganda has always existed, because propaganda can be whatever you want it to be, right? It can be good, it can be bad. But like this is a new kind of realm that we're looking into. So for people who are on the younger age, it's about discernment. How are people deciding what is true and what's not, right? Being able to see a deep fake picture or video and say, this doesn't quite look right. Like when I saw those Mandani pictures that I mentioned earlier in the episode, the first thing I did was to go Google, is this true? Or like something else, right? And then I was like, oh, this is a deep fake. Like once I clicked once or twice, I was like, oh, these are fake. I can go about my business now and not worry about this, because as somebody who supported that candidate, I mean, like I'm not in New York, but like I support him and believe in what he's trying to do. I wanted to see did I need to know this to then change my habits around supporting this person. Not that, and also I don't even know if that would have mattered, but whatever. It was a stupid fake picture. While our elders may not be checking at all. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a fact and I'm going to run with it. And so it's like making sure, again, that system, like Dr. Kelly studied, that there needs to be a system, right? That it has to be additive, not subtractive, and that all of these tools cannot just be used in a vacuum. We do still need minutes, right? We still do need minutes from meetings, but we also need local community-oriented voices who are going to contextualize those minutes and give us the information, and both of those things should be available to the public so that we can all make informed decisions. So yeah, this has been a really great conversation, but before we wrap up, we do want to share some like social media tips and some tips of how to think about, as you're going forth, if you're a planner out there thinking about work or life, or if you're just a regular person out there being like, dang, what's my place in this? So some things we want to highlight, and Dayna, jump in if I miss something, is make sure you prioritize sharing links over screenshots. So I know it's easy for us, like even me, I follow NPR on Instagram. I may see an article and read the whatever I need to read and then send that as a screenshot, but go get the link and then send it to somebody, because then they can read the whole story and get the whole context.
I will also add for that too with the links, is especially if you're reading an article, because articles can be edited, rightfully so, when we found out this, and even then being able to refer back to it versus taking a screenshot, it becomes stale. Or if it's like, if it's more information, you're not giving, how Nina said, the full context. So oftentimes I've even but advise my parents, or like the elder, like send me the link, not the screenshot. Here's how you get the link to whatever you're sending, instead of just screenshotting, whatever it may be. Or reading the full article before you share it too. That's a
right. Read the full article before you share it.
Because I've even had to say that's not accurate. This was not true, but like being able to read it.
And headlines often sensationalize things, and then when you
100%.
get into the depth, you get the truth. So definitely be doing that. As we all talked about, know your trusted resources. Know where you go to. Is it peer reviewed? Is that person that you're following or have getting information from, are they qualified to speak on the subject? Because the more that microphones are on Amazon, the more misinformation we will get.
When you got that Prime and they come fast, 2 days.
So
because this came in 2 days.
Is it a trusted resource? Is it a trusted newsroom? And then also, even if you for trusted news sources or newsrooms, who owns it and who funds it? Because that is also a lens in which you have to consider. And none of us are exempt from this. We all produce information or give information based on our POV. And so you have to understand like who's paying for it, what lens is it coming from, so that you can then digest that language or digest that information in that lens. Go ahead, Dayna.
And I would say to that, even the parent company, it made me think of, I was watching a video about, and I forgot his name, but essentially the man who owns Variety, Billboard, Vanity Fair, that actors on act. It was ridiculous the amount. Penske, like the oil. I think that's all the same family. This one white man who's a very right wing owns all of these publications. And even being able, when you see the map, and I'll put the link in our liner notes, but when you see the map and you start to realize this information is determined on how it's going to benefit his bottom line. Or even now when like, and again, music, artists who get on Billboard, that's going to be aligned with what that's not based off of how good they are and just the data of streams. That's who's going to be on top, who's not. So even like who wins these awards of, I think it's the American Music Awards and something else, like this family owns all of that. So even like not just news, but even almost events of what we're doing, being able to know like who owns this, what are their viewpoints, what benefits them. And not to say you need to memorize this like twisted family tree of all of this, but just be cognizant of, oh, I'm getting this from someone who benefits from this story being pushed. The lack of, this is also the variety is tinted of how Sinners, the movie, was portrayed in the headlines. So all of this bad press is from right wing, I can't say my R's, but all of that, it matters into how this is being positioned. So even knowing like the lens in which you're consuming the information matters. Be aware of grifters, voices who may change their stances in favor of the bottom line, $1, or for small scale swindling. Candace Owens. Changes. And baby girl's not stupid. She's not stupid and not uneducated. She intentionally will be intellectually dishonest to swindle you. And then when it's not to her benefit, now her talking points change. I think that's something important, of just because someone sounds like they know what they're talking about, that's the ultimate grift, because I can sound very well and say that. So, and whatever I want to say. And if you don't know the information and if I market it well and my branding is good, some folks can get buy-in.
Sounds good.
Yeah. AI.
But is it good for you?
Right. Is it good for you? AI generated images. So even Nina, how you talked about seeing things, you can put an image into Google search and just like crop, screenshot it. And see, does multiple sites come up, or does this only come up from the same random site? Does this site name sound random? Dayna's fun pics. Like, don't click on that. Don't believe anything that says something like that. So even like who did, kind of the asking why, who produces, who did, who wrote this, why is this coming out right now? But yeah, I would say overall we're no longer in a place where you can just trust things at face value. So even if I think previous generations, if I get the newspaper, it's on my front step and I see a man landing on the moon, I believe that because it's in the newspaper. If you pull something up and it's a dog on the moon, that may not be true. Like that's just a picture that may be generated. And I would leave it as, this is just my personal way of thinking of think of it similar to the way that when you're in the grocery store and you're buying like fresh produce, you don't just pick up the first apple and put it in your bin and say, this is the one I'm going to use, for my food. You examine it. Does this make sense? Like a little bruise. Okay. That makes sense given whatever. Yeah. This fruit is not in season, so it's not going to be the best. The color may be different, like understanding that. And you don't have to be a farmer to know like what fruit looks good, but having like a practice of verifying things, I think is important. And also being that for the people in your community, whether it's older generations or younger, because I think millennials sit at a interesting intersection of time on the internet where we're well versed in it, but we remember life without it.
Yeah. So those are our tips and tricks. Jermaine and Jasmine, thank you so much for joining this episode. And if y'all are at home and you're like, oh my God, I want to be a part of this conversation, this, including the other two topics that you'll hear in this podcast series, are actually part of our Planning with a Purpose salons. And so you will be able to participate in these conversations with real planners, with real community members, with people who are coming to this event who have the same interests. So we hope to see y'all there. And yeah, check out the next episode, part 3, where we'll be talking about institutions. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. This episode is part 2 of a 3-part special podcast collaboration series bringing together 3 platforms that explore culture, community, and the future of our cities while centering voices of the marginalized. This collaboration series leads up to a Planner with a Purposes activation weekend in Detroit, where planners, creatives, and community leaders will come together to explore how planning, culture, and community storytelling intersect, taking place during the National Planning Conference for the American Planning Association. A Planner with a Purpose is a curated set of experiences designed to support planners and civic leaders navigating an increasingly complex and demanding moment. Grounded in care, clarity, and collective power, the event creates space for honest conversation, practical tools, and connection beyond traditional professional programming. Be sure to join us starting Thursday, April 23rd in Detroit, Michigan. For more information on the weekend, follow a Planner with a Purpose on TikTok and IG. This series is a collaboration between the Streets Are Planning podcast in part 1, Queen Tone for part 2, and 4 Degrees to the Streets closing out with part 3. The Streets Are Planning podcast is hosted by Jermaine Ruffin. Be sure to follow The Streets Are Planning on IG. Queen Tone is hosted by Dayna Cole and Nina Idamudia. Be sure to follow them at Queen Tone Pod. 4 Degrees to the Streets is hosted by Jasmine Jones-Bynes. Check her out at the 4 Degrees Pod on IG, YouTube, and Substack. This podcast collaboration series is produced and edited by Dayna Cole of Dayna Cole LLC, Audio Consultancy. Thank you for listening. We look forward to continuing the conversation across all 3 podcasts.